On a cold and gray winter morning in New York, Barron Trump sat in an old office on the upper floors of Trump Tower. It was a forgotten room his father had once used years ago. As he looked down from the window, the hustle and bustle of the city didn't affect him at all. He'd grown up in the public eye, living a life of luxury, yet there was always an emptiness inside him. An emptiness that neither money nor fame could fill. It felt like a part of his life was missing, but he could never quite understand what it was. That morning, as he opened an old cabinet in the corner of the room, his eyes caught sight of a dusty wooden box. On the lid, faded letters read, "Family Secrets." Barron's heart began to race. He wondered what was inside this box. Slowly, he lifted the lid and began examining its contents. Inside, he found yellow documents from years past, old photographs, and a sealed envelope. One photo, in particular, caught his attention. A picture from the 1990s, showing a young Donald Trump standing next to an unknown child. The child's facial features looked strikingly similar to Barron's. He picked up the photo to get a closer look. In the child's eyes, he saw the same melancholic expression he had often seen in his own reflection. His heart pounded even harder. Who was this child? Why had no one ever mentioned him? Overcome by curiosity, Barron broke the seal on the envelope. The letter inside revealed a dark family secret that had been hidden for years. It was addressed to his mother, Melania Trump, and began with these chilling words. "Melania, we must keep this secret forever. Otherwise, everything will fall apart. Our son, we made this decision to protect him." Barron's hands trembled. So he had a brother he never knew about. But why had he been hidden? And where was he now? He was determined to uncover the truth. However, he knew he couldn't trust anyone in his family. One name came to mind, David L. Carlson, a former detective who had been one of his father's closest confidants for years. Barron called him and asked if he knew anything about this. There was a long silence on the phone. Finally, David said, "We can't talk about this over the phone. There's an old meeting place of ours. Meet me there." The next evening, Barron met the detective at a secluded cafe in Manhattan. The cafe was tucked away in a quiet corner of the city, on the ground floor of an old and faded building. Inside, dim lighting cast long shadows on the walls, which were lined with photographs bearing the marks of time. David sat in the corner, waiting. As Barron took a seat across from him, David took a deep breath and locked eyes with him. "Barron, what I'm about to tell you is something your family never wanted you to know. Years ago, your father had another child, but this child could never live a normal life. There were too many risks. So they sent him away." Barron swallowed hard. "Where is he now?" he asked. David averted his gaze. "If he's still alive, you'll find him in an orphanage in Mexico." Barron felt a storm brewing inside him. His brother had grown up in an orphanage? In Mexico? Why? Why was this secret so enormous? David handed him an address and warned, "Be careful." This is just the beginning. The truth might be more complicated than you think. Without hesitation, Barron boarded a private jet to Mexico. His destination was a large, grim orphanage on the outskirts of Mexico City. The orphanage's walls were faded, and its garden was neglected. With an old photograph in hand, Barron knocked on the heavy wooden door. An elderly woman answered. When he showed her the photo, she hesitated for a moment before saying, "Yes, This child grew up here, but when he turned 18, he left, without a trace. Barron felt disappointment sink in. However, the orphanage director mentioned that the boy had left behind only one thing: an old journal. When Barron opened it, he found pages filled with writing. His brother, whose name was Alexander, had written about constantly wondering who he was and why his family had abandoned him. Sometimes, I dream of tall buildings and a boy with my face talking to me, but I don't know who he is. The only thing I do know is that I have to find out who I am. Barron's eyes welled up as he read. His brother had felt the same emptiness too, but the most shocking part was on the last page. Today, a man came to me and told me the truth. My father is a famous man. I come from the Trump family, but no one can ever know. If this secret gets out, it will cause a massive scandal. But I will find myself, no matter what. Barron was now certain his brother was alive. His research led him to discover that Alexander was last seen at an underground fight club in Mexico City. Just past midnight, Barron arrived at an old building lit by flashing neon lights. Inside, the atmosphere was chaotic and noisy. People cheered as two fighters clashed in a ring. And then he saw him. A fighter in the ring bore his exact face. Barron stood in shock as he watched. He noticed the men around the ring whispering to each other. Suddenly, one of them approached him and asked, "What are you doing here?" Barron held up the photograph. "I'm looking for this man," he said. The man hesitated for a moment before leading Barron to a back room behind the ring. Inside, Alexander sat, battered and bloodied. When he saw Barron, he looked just as shocked. "Who are you?" Alexander asked. Barron's voice trembled. "I'm Barron, your brother." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, Alexander shoved Barron away as he stood up. "You're lying. The people who abandoned me now suddenly want me?" he shouted. Barron stepped closer. "No, I only just learned the truth myself. But no matter what, you're my brother, and I want to take you out of here." Alexander hesitated for a long time. Then his eyes filled with tears. "Really?" he whispered. Barron nodded. "Yes, you're not alone anymore." That night, Barron and Alexander left Mexico City together. For the first time in years, Alexander felt like he truly belonged. And for Barron, he had finally found the missing piece in his life. But this was only the beginning. The dark secrets of their family were far from over, and a greater battle awaited them.